And it is 9 o'clock. It's Tuesday night. That means it's time for another episode of the Get Off My Lawn podcast. So thank you, everybody, for joining us as we do this live, coming to you on YouTube and on Facebook. And now that we're live, the notifications should be going out. So hopefully people will be jumping in here pretty soon. We've got a few people out in the chat there already. So hopefully we gain a few more. All right. And like I said last week, I'm going to start letting everybody know that the dates that we record these, or well, if you're catching it live, obviously, you know it's today. But if you're catching this on the audio version or on the replay down the road, then you'll know that, that this is February 2nd, 2021. Actually, quite a few things going on today. So it's Groundhog Day again. Isn't that how he says it in the movie? And hopefully the day doesn't just repeat and repeat and repeat for us all. But it's not only Groundhog Day, it's also, if you're in Texas, it's Chris Kyle Day. And if you're not in Texas, I think it's still Chris Kyle Day. So those of you that are familiar with his story, if I remember right, today is Chris Kyle Day because this is the anniversary of the day that he was killed. And so we want to remember his life, his accomplishments, and everything, all the sacrifices that he made for his country, for all of us. It's also Every Second Matters Day. And so that is the day that we set aside every month to try and be, some of us do it all the time or as much as we can, but not everybody does. So it's the day that we try to get people off their butts to be advocates for the Second Amendment. If you can open carry legally where you live, then we encourage open carry. If you go to a job that doesn't allow such a thing, then obviously that's not going to be an option for you. That is my case. I did go to work today and I was not able to open carry, but there are other things that you can do. You can get Every Second Matters shirts. You can get patches, things like that. This one's really cool. It even glows in the dark. And so there are things that you can do that might help start the conversation. You know, maybe you're at the gas station waiting to pay for your gas, your coffee, whatever it is, and somebody's in line and says, "Hey, you know, I see your hat. What's Every Second Matters?" And then there's just a chance to have a conversation without looking like a complete nutball, right? I mean, that's the whole thing. We want the world to understand that as law-abiding, background check passing citizens, you know, the country's gun owners, by and large, we're just normal people. You know, we all have jobs in real houses, and we don't all live in a bunker somewhere, you know, in a mountain compound wearing nothing but camo and in combat boots. And if you're wearing camo right now and or combat boots, then cool. I mean, that's fine too. But that's just not the you know, that stereotype. We're trying to wear that down and get that changed. So it's a lot of different things, along with being the day that we go live and hang out with everybody. So we've got a few things that we need to cover, of course, before we get into the meat and potatoes of the chat. So let's see, who do we have out there? I'm not seeing any comments coming in on the Facebook side. Now, if you're watching right now, if you're watching us live on Facebook, then Sandhills Sweetheart is over in the producer's chair, and she can actually see you. I think it lets her know when you log in that you're watching. If you are watching live on YouTube, we cannot tell that you're there unless you're making comments. So feel free to go ahead and drop those comments. The more the merrier. And we like it when it gets lively over in the chat and everybody has a great conversation. If you have questions, then you can tag anybody that's here on the panel that also is out there in the chat, or Sandhills Sweetheart or myself as well. Just put an @ symbol in front of the name just as it appears in the chat there. And that'll highlight it on their screen or our screen, depending on who you tag. As you can see behind me, the puppy is in the room. We were going to put her in her kennel while we did this, but she made too much racket. She cried too loud. And even in down the hallway in a different room with the door closed, everybody could still hear her. The mic was picking her up. So we just put her in here. The squeaky toy is going to be less annoying than the crying dog. And if she gets to be a handful, you know what's going to happen. I'll just kind of tune out for a second, or else I'll turn off the camera and we'll pick up whatever got knocked over. So, but she can always find something to chew on in here that she's not supposed to. All right. Out there in the YouTube chat, we've got Frankie's Guns and Glitter is here already. Blitz is in the house. Defense Dad there and here. Mike is out there. Sandhills Sweetheart, of course. My beautiful bride is in the chat room as well. Schofield 63, I can see you out there. Pat Hirsch, I don't know if I said your name already. Pat's doing double duty along with Defense Dad. If you are, like I said, if you're out there, leave those comments. We want to know that you're here, and we want to be able to say hello to you at the end of the night. Okay. I see Ben Roberts out there too. What's up, Ben? Good to have you along. Ben's a new friend. I think I've got the right Ben. Correct me if I'm wrong, Ben, but this is Middle American Outdoors Ben, right? You need to go check out their videos on their YouTube and Facebook as well. Middle American Outdoors is cool. I met a couple of these guys down at the Deer and Game Expo in Lincoln a few weeks back. So, all right. Let's see. And I'm going to change things up a little bit. Normally I would introduce our panel, but we've got a special guest that we're going to introduce and then just kind of let him talk a little bit. So before we introduce our panelists tonight, we do want to give a little bit of recognition and thank you for tonight's podcast sponsor. So tonight's podcast is brought to you by Nighthawk Medic Shoots. And I thought Nighthawk was going to join us, and he may still pop in later tonight. But Nighthawk Medic Shoots is a channel dedicated to protecting the First and Second Amendment through advocacy and shooting. They evaluate firearms for new shooters of all varieties to help ensure every person in our nation has an opportunity to find a weapon they can afford and trust. God bless America and her people. May the Constitution always remain the law of the land. You can find Nighthawk Medic Shoots on YouTube, on Facebook. I know he's over on the Full 30 app as well, and there may be one or two other places. But the YouTube and the Facebook are the ones that I have access to that I know of. But again, Nighthawk, thank you very much for helping make everything go live tonight, and that is why we can do YouTube and Facebook both at the same time. So, all right. Couple other things that I want to mention. We are now part of the Self-Defense Radio Network, which is something that we've been saying for several weeks now. We're very proud of that. We're not going to stop saying it because we want everybody to go over there and check out the Self-Defense Radio Network. You can find all kinds of cool podcasts. You can find the Polite Society podcast. You can find Armed Lutheran Radio. There's so many, I can't even think of them all. Riding Shotgun with Charlie is there. Gun Freedom Radio with Cheryl and Danny Todd is over there. So many great ones. They're adding more all the time. They added us, and I just kind of feel like I'm in the company of giants when I'm looking at all of the cool podcasters that are actually have their shows over there. And then, you know, there's mine too, just kind of sitting there. So it's very, very, we're very thankful to be recognized as part of the Self-Defense Radio Network. So go to sdrn.us and check out all of the cool shows over there. If you want cool swag, like this hat back here, like the one that you'll see Pat rocking that on his head tonight when he turns on his camera. Other hats, a few stickers. There will be more stuff coming. I've been talking to Crumpy, but he had some stuff going on at home that has put a little bit of a monkey wrench in the works. So we haven't been able to get the t-shirts out, but they're coming. But you can go to blackswantactical.com and go see the Sandhills shooter collection there. Use the discount code Sandhills. You'll get 10% off your order over there. So, and I think that works for all the stuff, not just mine. So you can get cool Black Swan tactical stuff over there too. Last but not least, if you want to catch us on the audio side, we are where most podcasts are found now. We're on Anchor, we're on Google and Apple, we're on Spotify, Stitcher, I believe, quite a few different ones now. So if you want to find where they all are, just go to anchor.fm/sandhills-shooter. And you can listen right on Anchor. If you've got a different podcast app that you like, then make sure that we're on one of those. If there's a podcast app that you like that we're not on, let me know. And then we can work on getting it over there too as well. So you can just drop those emails to sandhillsshooter@gmail.com, just like that ticker going across the bottom. All right. So one thing that I had said we were going to do tonight before we start, and this is kind of cool. I think we might do this more often. Hopefully every week we can remember to do this. But sometimes my mouth gets going, my brain shuts down because I can only run one or the other at a time. And so I don't always remember to do the stuff I started out planning to do. But we're going to have, we're just going to start the night off with the Pledge of Allegiance. I don't have any pre-recorded versions of the national anthem, and I don't want any copyright strikes for playing something pre-recorded, and you do not want me to sing that, especially not a cappella. So we're just going to do the Pledge of Allegiance because there's no singing involved. So let me get myself out of the way here. And see it. Oops. See if I can do this and keep the microphone a little bit close to me. So if everybody would join me, place your hand over your heart and just say it with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. So let me get everything put back where it was. Whoa. There we go. All righty. That was kind of cool. I think we should do that way more often. All right. Let's go over to our panel. We'll let everybody introduce themselves, and we'll just kind of get into some cool stuff here. So first and foremost, we've kind of got a Nebraska-laden panel tonight, which is cool. It's good to have more people here from the great state of Nebraska. So first off, reporting in from the capital city of Lincoln, we've got Defense Dad. How you doing tonight?
Not too bad, man. Good call wearing pants for the pledge today.
It's funny. I just about didn't, except for I made that up. Yeah, I don't ever do this without my pants because especially with the dog, I never know when I'm going to have to jump up and grab her or something, and I don't always have time to kill the camera. So yeah, we've seen those commercials on TV lately where people are doing their Zoom calls in their boxers, and that ain't me.
No,
nobody got time for that.
Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, you bet. Thanks for being here. Next up, we've got Pat and sometimes Lily, but it looked like it was just Pat tonight.
Yeah, just me tonight. The little one, just like last week, a minute right before the podcast started, she was out like a light bulb. So anyway, I just wanted to say thanks for having me on tonight, and thanks to our special guest for coming on tonight so we can have a little different topic, a little different issue tonight, so we can see it from a other point of view. So always good to see things from a different point of view for sure.
You bet. All right. And before I introduce our last panelist, I just want to throw this out there. If you or somebody that you know is a shooter, whether it's competition or just recreational or just occasionally, maybe it's a daily carry, I don't know, anything that has to do with shooting. But if you or somebody that you know is dealing with a disability and you're not letting it stop you from being a shooter, and you're still able to exercise your rights as defined by the Second Amendment, then let us know out there in the chat, because I want to hear more stories. I want people to be encouraged and inspired. Maybe they've thought about shooting, or maybe they used to shoot, something happened, they've got a disability, and they don't think they can still do it. You're limited only by your imagination and your finances. Let me tell you that much. So if you know somebody like that, get them the link, get them to join. If they want to come and tell us their story, we would love that. We've got about an hour or so to play with tonight. so that would be awesome because I would love to hear more stories. We had a few other people that were going to be in the panel, and due to some of their things that they deal with alongside their disabilities, they're not here tonight, and that's okay. They've got to prioritize getting things right first before they can come online and hang out with us. But that being said, we've got room for a few more people that can join us and talk about this. And let me say something. It doesn't just have to be a physical impairment. It can be something emotional. It can be something mental. There are scars that people have that they can't, you can't see them, right? But that doesn't mean that that the shooting sports or their ability to shoot firearms is not affected by that. So sometimes people just have to overcome things like post-traumatic stress and things like that. So it doesn't have to be a physical impairment. If you want to come tell your story, or somebody that should tell their story, just let them know. So all right, let's go through here. We will take the ticker down. We'll come back over here. All right, and then last but not least on the panel tonight, we've got our special guest. His name is Jim Kuzak, and I could tell you a little bit about his story, and I'd probably get it mostly wrong, or I could just shut my mouth and let Jim tell his own story. So first and foremost, Jim, thanks for joining us. How you doing tonight? Yep, I muted you, so you have to hit the unmute button there. It should be at the bottom of the screen.
Got it. Is that better?
There you are. Yep, now we can hear you.
Good. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thanks for joining us, man. So you're coming to us from Pennsylvania.
Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Pittsburgh. All right. So you have some physical things that you've had to learn how to deal with, that you didn't start your life with. So real quick, would you just kind of tell us the brief story of, I guess the brief story of what happened? First off, we'll start there, and then we'll go into some other questions.
Sure. April 4th, 2011, I was a police officer, and on the evening shift on a Monday night, I was responding to a domestic, we thought at first it was a disturbance, and turned out to be a domestic dispute, which then turned into be an actual home invasion. We didn't know any of this until we got to the house. Myself and two partners arrived, and the final outcome was I was ambushed at the back door, and I was shot 5 times. So that got my attention. The initial shock of it is that dropped me to the ground because I was immediately paralyzed, so I wasn't having any use of my legs. And from there on out, it was my partners that pretty much took over from there, saving my life. Carried me out from there, got me to the street, got me to the ambulance, which the ambulance then get me to the hospital and the trauma unit, which kept me alive and brought me here today. As a result of that, I am now a paraplegic from about the waist down. And that's how I go through my life now as a former police officer in a wheelchair.
All right. So obviously that meant that you can no longer do what you used to do for a living. So that's impacted your life in a lot of different ways. And I don't think I know anyone who doesn't know somebody who's in a wheelchair. I mean, it's not an uncommon thing. We've all seen folks in wheelchairs. We know some of the things that you have had to adjust your life around. I've got a nephew who was in a car accident and he's in a wheelchair now. And I mean, just the things I'd never thought about, like widening the bathroom door, things like that. Stuff that he can't reach in the cupboards at home because they're not lowered. I mean, I understand how it can completely turn your life upside down. I don't understand what it's like, obviously, because I haven't been through it, but I've seen some stuff happen, and seen some people close to me that have had to learn how to completely relearn, I guess, how to live their life for the most part. So the part that we are going to really dig into tonight is with the just you're being able to still shoot firearms, and I know that that's kind of been a little bit of a journey for you, and I know that you're still on that journey, right, Jim?
Sure.
So can you kind of start us off with the first, I guess the first thing I want to know is what had to change in just general being able to go out to a range and press the trigger, and then not only that, but as far as daily carry and things like that, what adjustments have you had to make in your life because of the wheelchair?
Pretty much everything. And I mean
Okay.
that in the sense of the word is once you're in the hospital and going through your rehab, there are people, if not your support mechanism and or your family, is out where you live trying to discern what they need to change in your home before you can even come back home. That's going to be whether it's going to be ramps, or you're going to live on one level. In my case, I was fortunate enough that it being a workman's compensation issue, an elevator was placed in my home that is a 3-story home. So that was the biggest change overall, other than reconfiguring your home. Basically, the nice thing about the house was it was a newer home with an open floor plan. What I say by open is we had a finished game room. The kitchen area just goes right into the living room, and then the bedrooms being upstairs. So you basically have to come into the biggest aspect of is just changing your bathroom. And like you said, the door widening. Most of the doors I could maybe just get into, but it's always that tight fit. So you want to look at your doors being 32 inches to 36 inches wide. So if you have to change any of those, the bathroom, you need to have complete accessibility into the shower, meaning most of them, if you can, be a roll-in shower, or if you have a bathtub shower combo, you have to have the ability to transfer into a shower chair and to take your shower from that aspect. But with that, you have to change out the shower head to have a wand, get that wand to the point where you can reach it, turn the water on, do all of these things. But it comes down to even the smallest thing. When I had arrived home at the hospital, they had the bathroom just about changed over. But what they didn't do is they didn't insulate the downpipe drain to the P-trap from my sink. And I shave with running hot water, and it was a metal downpipe.
Oh no.
Yeah, so my right leg leaned up against that pipe and was being thoroughly burned the whole time I was shaving, and I couldn't feel it. So I backed out and saw the skin sliding off my knee with 3rd-degree burn. So you had to come over now. Not only am I now home, learning how to deal with the wheelchair, dealing with all the other health issues, now I have to deal with 3rd-degree burn on my leg. So a lot of things that you have to learn as a person, what you're going to get yourself into being in a wheelchair and having to worry about your lower extremities due to the fact you may not be able to feel what they're doing or where your legs are, where your feet are. Don't run over your own foot. Things can simply happen.
Mm-hmm.
So the time frame in getting your home reconfigured is one of the largest aspects of time taken. If you can get it done quickly, great. If not, we didn't have the home complete for almost a year. The first 6 to 8 months, we were showering in the integral garage. My feet, at the time, my girlfriend was helping me shower then. We were showering on a cold cement floor in January.
Ooh.
Yeah, now we were heating the garage, so as long as we kept the door down for the day, it was good. But I'd still have to, I'd go in there and heat the concrete floor up so that she wouldn't have to stand in, freezing water and shower and assist me with that. So these are things that nobody usually sees or nobody knows about unless they're dealing with somebody that has a disability. So each person's disability is different.
Mm-hmm.
So what and how much you have to do and change will vary upon that, whether somebody's in a wheelchair, whether somebody has a missing extremity, anything to that nature. You have to reconfigure your cabinets, put things where I can reach them. Can I pick things up off the floor? So you may not be able to do a lot of these things when you first get out of the hospital, but as you progress in your life, you find your ways around things. And now that I'm going to be, this April, be about 10 years in, there's not a lot that I really can't do. If I got one of my grabbers, I can get something off the top shelf, and I can pretty much get myself back up off the floor and into my wheelchair without any assistance. So these are things you learn throughout, your years as you go on. There is a learning curve, and you do learn more. What I had to overcome was you don't realize how fast you put on weight when you're not using the lower half of your body. And I put on a lot of weight. When I came out of the hospital, I had dropped 25 pounds, so I was only 175 pounds. And within a year and a half, I had hit about 250. So I carried that around for a few years. And then within the last 2 years, I was able to drop it down. I'm back down to about 195, 200. And that makes a big difference. How your shoulders feel, how your wrists feel, how your elbows feel. And wheeling yourself around, you're using your arms as your legs now. So all these things come into play. And this is even before you have to figure out that now I have to protect myself as I did before, but even more so, I have to be vigilant because I'm a larger target, being for the fact people see me in a wheelchair. If they think they can get money from me, steal from me, knock me out of the chair, that's a viable option for them, not for me. So I'd say I started carrying again probably within 2 years of being in the chair. And for those first 2 years, it was pretty much physical therapy 3 to 4 days a week, 2 different locations. I'd be in the city for one, then I'd be back out of the city at a therapy pool and swimming on, doing those kind of things. And it took me a little while to get comfortable wearing what I was going to carry. Trying to wear a in the waistband holster is difficult, whether you wear it on the 4 o'clock position, appendix carry, because just have it sitting there. I can't feel if a gun's digging into me. That in turn, does that cause any type of scratch or wound in my skin that may or may not heal? So there's a lot of aspects of what type of carry are you going to do. And it came down to this, where I'm at now is I'll either wear a belly band, depending upon the firearm I'm carrying, and or I'll have a fanny pack. Fanny pack seems to be the way to go, because depending on which one I have, I can configure the holster different inside for whichever firearm I'm carrying, spare magazines, anything else I carry, having a knife on me as well. So it's been a trial and error.
And that's, I guess, one of the things that I want to just kind of reiterate there is, if somebody did decide to or mistake you rather for a soft target, and they were to knock you out of your chair, if you were carrying somewhere on the chair and not on your person, then they've effectively removed you from your defense tool as well. So being able to carry on body is still, I mean, it doesn't matter if you're using your legs or not. It's still going to be the best option out there, because then it's still with you no matter what happens, if at all possible. We always recommend on body carry around here. That doesn't mean that it's always the best, or excuse me, it's always the option chosen. And I know that there are plenty of extenuating circumstances, but just one more example of why it would be so important to make sure that your firearm is on your person, just in case. Like in your case, where if you get separated from the chair, then you don't have to get back to the chair before you can do something about it.
Sure. And like I said, each person and their disability is going to dictate how they're going to do that. If the only option they have is to carry on the chair somewhere, then you deal with that.
Sure, exactly.
I actually ran into a scenario, oddly enough, literally 3 days after the trial occurred for the individuals that were responsible for having shot me. And my girlfriend and I, Chris, my fiance, and I, we were walking outside of the courthouse, and someone recognized me. I'd been on the TV for the last year, nearly nonstop. And the gentleman yelled out from one of the bus shelters in the city of Pittsburgh, and he says, that's Officer Kuzak Clareton in the house. I said, yeah, that's me. He says, man, I'm looking a lot better than you are. I says, I don't see it that way. I'm doing pretty good. And I had just kind of glanced out of the right side of my eye and seen that this was a rather large man. I estimated to be about 6'2", probably about 275. So as I kept moving and walking on with my girlfriend, and all I could hear was him saying, oh yeah, you're better than me, huh? What are you going to do when I knock your ass out of that chair? I just kept moving, and I told her, I said, when we get to the corner, I said, I want you to get in front of me, and when I spin around, I want you to just keep going. And he says, yeah, what are you going to do when I come up there and kick your ass, come knock you out of that chair? And I could hear him getting closer. So at this time, I had just started to carry again, and I had my Glock 27 40 caliber in my right-hand pocket. So when we hit the curb, I turned up into the street, put my hand into my pocket, pulled it out, spun the wheelchair around, and he had just turned and walked away prior to me drawing down. So I was fortunate in that respect that I didn't just shoot this large black man who was threatening to harm me. He had gone about his rest of his day. What I didn't know was, as I continued on the courthouse, is when I filed a report about 2 hours later with the sheriff's, that he was already in custody. I says, okay, that's interesting. I didn't even tell you who he is. They're like, well, what's it? Can you describe him? I'm like, sure. And I just happened to be in the sheriff's office, and I looked down. I went, well, that's him. They're like, who? I said, well, the guy in that picture you have of that driver's license. There's like, well, how could if he tried to assault you? I said, well, this was 1 o'clock. They're like, oh, really? Well, apparently at 1:45, he had gone up to his hearing in the mental, what they would say is the mental health cases at the courthouse. He walked in, looked at the judge, flipped him off, and then tried to punch the deputy. 5 deputies later and 2 tasers, he was in custody. So needless to say, he caught 2 cases that day, one for threatening to kill me and my fiance, and the case he had in the courtroom. He ended up getting 4 years total. So I find that I was fortunate that I didn't have to shoot him, as I said before, but that this really just happened a year after I was shot. And that day was one of the few days that I had started carrying again. I hadn't been carrying the 5 weeks prior because I was in the courthouse every day. So it just goes to show you, I don't care who you are, where you are a target. But me being, as I would say, a little slower going sometimes and not able to run away but wheel away, I was going to have to not wheel away that day.
What is that? What is the name for that term? Cognitive dissonance, when you don't think it could ever happen to you.
Correct.
So yeah,
always
go ahead.
situational awareness too. I mean, if you're not aware of who's around you or what you're doing, or do you feel that person walking behind you? Did you see that person twice within this short period of time where you were? These are the things that you need to pay attention to.
Oh yeah, I've heard people that were smarter than me say that you win every fight you avoid. And that's, your first weapon or your first line of defense is just keeping your eyes up and just don't get yourself into trouble if you can avoid it.
Absolutely.
So since then, things have kind of progressed along your journey as a shooter. And I don't know how active you were as far as shooting sports when you were working law enforcement, because I know, it's I guess it comes as kind of a surprise to a lot of people that just because somebody is a police officer doesn't make them a gun person. Just because somebody's a soldier doesn't make them a gun person necessarily. So, and I've talked to a lot of law enforcement officers around my area who they can tell me, usually they can tell me what they carry, but unless it's to qualify, they don't ever shoot the thing. They're just not gun people, and the people that are listening to our voices predominantly are. I know the people here on the panel with us are gun guys. So I don't like I started to say, I don't know how big of a gun guy you were beforehand. Would you just kind of enlighten us a little bit before you were shot? Were you a gun person? Were you just you carried it because it was part of the job, or how did that work?
I had always been a gun person. I had a gun in my hand at 8 years old. So I was a lifelong hunter. I was always training with my firearm to be proficient. I would go to training that the department sent me to, and if the department couldn't send me, I went on my own. And I had done a lot of tactical training pretty much from the late 90s through my time on the job. I had, for a while there, had been training and then ultimately an instructor with Saber Tactical out of Tennessee under Paul Castle. And we were going through a lot of different departments and teaching what was the CAR system, the center access reload shooting system. So I was doing a lot of that outside of law enforcement. outside of at least my department for law enforcement. So I had done training anywhere from, we were training West Virginia, I would train with him in Tennessee, come up here and train in Pennsylvania, do things like that. So yeah, I was a gun guy. I always carried a backup, at least when my department permitted it. And that would have either been, I carried a Smith Titanium Airlight 38 Special for a while. Actually, mine was 357 I carried on my vest underneath my left armpit. And then I carried a Glock on duty for the longest time. I mean, that was primarily my entire career. My first 3 or 4 years, I carried a Beretta. And usually that comes along with departments that require you to carry the firearms that they have.
Mm-hmm.
So I had no problem being with Glock. So that's kind of what got me into where my shooting career is now. I was fortunate enough that once I did start shooting after the incident, which took me a little while, I had to get through some PTSD issues, go through some counseling that put me where I needed to be in the right state of mind. Mm-hmm. I started shooting. My first shooting after that was I started doing sporting clay again. Started through sporting clay, so I'm like, hey, if I can deal with these kind of sounds, I'm good. Started back shooting pistol with my cousin who was a police officer. That was even better. And I started shooting again, and then I just started putting my name out there, trying to tell people, hey, this is something I really want to do. I want to go back into more of the competitive shooting. Beforehand, I would go into the IPSC shoots or the USPSA shoots with my duty gear on. And that was to be proficient with what I was wearing every day. It wasn't for me to more or less compete with the guys in those divisions. It was more for me to compete with me and what I'm wearing. I want to make sure that when I'm using the firearm, I'm proficient in holstering, I'm proficient in unholstering, reloads, everywhere that is where my mag pouches are on my belt. It was what I wanted to have on me and shoot with what I'd be wearing every day. And that's what I did before, but I knew I wasn't obviously going to be wearing a gun belt of that nature, shooting competition this way. So I started shooting a little bit, and I guess through the right channels and the right people, I ended up getting contacted by Glock. And through some discussion, I said, well, I would be honored and just absolutely amazed if you would let me shoot and represent the company. And they offered me basically what would be, I guess, a brand ambassador and as their adaptive shooter. So I go to IDPA, USPSA shoots, as many as I can, depending upon where and whether things are. I tend to try and get to Florida as often as I can. The shooting in Florida is nonstop and constant, obviously because of the weather. Mm-hmm. So that's given me a lot of opportunities in shooting in both USPSA and IDPA.
That's awesome. So if anybody else out there has thought about getting into competition shooting, or maybe getting back into it, maybe now they're in the same boat as you, where you used to go into those competitions, looking and walking like everybody else. And now obviously that's not the case. So if there's anybody out there who's listening to us right now, can you give us just a little bit of kind of a description on how you have things set up to be able to go into competition, so people kind of know where to start?
Sure. The current configuration I have now, I got from Trevor Backham. Trevor is an injured paraplegic. He was injured in the war. He was a Black Hawk pilot, and through a crash, he was rendered paraplegic from the waist down. He shoots for Ruger, and he got me onto CompTac. CompTac has a wonderful holster setups, and they also made a mount for him that mounted to the bars of the wheelchair through bicycle clamps, like things you would clamp onto your handlebars, things like that. So they made a mount that with 2 clamps, varying sizes, you can mount that with right onto the bar next to you on your wheelchair. So right where, just about where my knee is where the bar bends down from my wheelchair. I mount that there with the G34 holster from CompTac. And so literally it is, if I was to sit my hand on the top of my thigh, all I got to do is 2 inches to the right, grab my firearm and draw.
Very cool. So you're shooting, you said you're shooting a Glock 34 now.
Most of my time I'm shooting any type of variation of the G34, yes. USPSA, I'm shooting in carry optics right now. IDPA, I started shooting the G45. I just liked it the way they have for the stages, and I shoot that one very well in the Gen 5. So I really love that one too. So yeah, depending upon what I'm shooting and which division, will kind of vary on which Glock I'm shooting.
All right. I'm not seeing, and I've been trying to more pay attention to you than the chat, so I don't know if I missed any questions out there. But my beautiful bride says there really haven't been any. If anybody has questions for Jim, please drop those out there in the chat, and then either tag Sandhills Sweetheart or myself so that we see those. Couple things here. One person did want to know if you are at all familiar with the Wheeled and Well-Armed. Let me start this over. Wheeled and Well-Armed channel on YouTube.
No, I did not know about that.
You'll have to give that one a look. If any of my blue wrenches out there can drop a link to that over in the chat, then I can copy that. And let's see, AA. Oh, Armament and Axe is out there. Wants to know if you have one of those cool track chairs.
I do. I have one of the action. Mine's one of the action track chairs. So okay. I have used that before. A little difficult in certain areas of mounting a holster. So when I'm working that one, I'll wear a outside the waistband holster on a belt. That way, I'll have a little better access to it. Difficulties with shooting from a holster on a belt in competition is this: to not flag your legs in a wheelchair is extremely difficult. So if you think to draw a holster from the right side of your body, you literally have to come out of the holster and straight and follow the same plane as your thigh and come up onto target. So that's more of a practice thing to do, and I've done that, but I find I prefer shooting competitions with the gun mounted on the chair. It's just safer. I don't have to worry about getting disqualified because I flagged myself or swept my leg. So those things kind of make a difference in that.
Nope, that I never even thought about that before. You know, and I've never had an opportunity even to do any practicing myself at a range where I'm seated somewhere and draw from a seated position. But I mean, that's just one more thing to think about is, making sure that however you're set up to draw from a seated position, you don't want to flag yourself, especially in a case where, in your case, if anything did happen, then you wouldn't even be able to assess the damage without, the visual confirmation of what had happened.
Sure.
Right away too. So
yeah, there's a lot of
safety first.
Yes, and I think a lot of what I've learned goes back to both USPSA and IDPA. IDPA tends to put you in those situations where you're shooting from seated. Whether it's your desk, at a table, okay, they tell you where to start, which target to shoot. Well, that target may be the first target on your left. So that means you got to come, if they tell you to stay seated, you're going to have to, unholster, draw, come across your body. So you have to do that with a drawn weapon. It's an uncommon movement that you may have to make. And these are the things that you have to give up time to do safely. And those are a little bit of the things that I've had to learn, but within the few years I've been doing that from the chair, I've kind of isolated them. I haven't really had any issues with, sweeping my legs or anything to that nature. Good deal.
All right. Let's see. Anybody else out there have any questions as we go along here? While we're waiting for those to filter in from the chat, I'm going to open this up and let Defense Stat or Pat have a chance to ask any questions or make any comments here.
Sure.
Okay. I'll throw one out there. Thank you for your service and being and putting yourself in the line of fire for everybody out there that is not either willing to protect themselves or is a little meeker than people out there. So thank you very much, sir. And my first question is, with everything that's going on out there right now with riots and everything that's been going on, how has that changed the landscape in your house and how you defend yourself, especially with great big mobs and everything versus, just like an everyday carry? So have you changed anything as far as modifying your house or anything so you can get around easier to get to different positions and stuff, or versus what you carry on an everyday basis versus inside your house?
Mostly with the house issue is I know where I have my options of egress and ingress and which way I'd have to go to get out of here. That was just a plan just sheerly for fire issues to begin with. Fire meaning actual fire, not being fired upon. But it also goes both ways, really, because if one's coming in the front door, I'm going out the back door. If it's coming out the back door, I'll obviously go in the front door. Now, for firearms within the house, there may or be one or two or three, maybe four strategically placed firearms in the house. Most likely a shotgun or two. I like the idea of the shotgun. It's just out of ease. Grab it. I can have a minimum of 8 rounds in the one I have there, and we're ready to go. Double up buck solves a lot of problems. Then right next to me, I always have, my everyday carry that's on the bedside. It'll just either go in the fanny pack or in whatever holster I'm carrying. So I don't so much have to worry about, I don't have any children, so I don't look at it as I don't have them sitting out, but I know where they are. But the difference is if there was a child in the house, you obviously have to, think of these ideas on a different level. Ultimately, you don't want the child to have any ability to access these firearms. And what do? You'll work your way around those safely. So without me having to worry about that, I just worry about, most of the time is getting me into the chair. If something happens and I'm in bed or it's going to happen like that, the time to get me out of bed into the chair and out of Dodge is the issue. So those are kind of the larger issues that I have, whereas an able-bodied person can get mobile a lot quicker, whereas I'm going to have a little downtime.
Oh, good stuff. Defense Dad, did you have anything that you wanted to throw in there?
Well, my main questions were, and he did a good job explaining it to us. I was curious how he did the competition stuff. I guess to that note, I do have like, do you have a separate chair for that that's set up for that? Because the reason I'm asking is a lot of times you get those matches, and like if you're moving from target to target, but there's either gravel or dirt, and with the regular wheels on the regular chair, is it hard to negotiate that for you?
The first year I started shooting, yes, because I was having to wheelie from position to position because the front casters on the chair are very small wheels. In fact, I'll show you the one that just fell off my chair today. That's the front caster.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, and you have little malfunctions that I have to repair, and I'll fix that later on. So I'm operating on 3 wheels right now. I have what's called the free wheel, and that is a third wheel that I call, of the 2 I have in the back. It mounts to the floor plate where my feet go, and it puts out a large single wheel in front that lifts those 2 front caster wheels off the ground. So now if I'm effectively 3 large wheels. That way I don't have to worry about gravel. I don't have to worry about the sand. And the biggest thing I have to worry about is fault lines. The red fault lines they have in competition now. Those are a hindrance. I have to do my best to stay within that, but because I can't get to every shooting position as an able-bodied person, they give me concessions on where I can place my chair and over the line a little bit, or where my feet are obviously on my chair. So I don't have those penalties or foot faults, they call them, as much as, say, a normal able-bodied person would have. I do have 2 operational wheelchairs right now, and I was using my everyday chair because my holster just mounts in a couple quick seconds, quick turn and an Allen wrench, and it's on. So I would just take it off when I'm done. I have basically 26-inch mountain bike tires on different rims that go onto the chair. The wheels are quick release axles, and you just put a different wheel on. So when I go to the range now, I just use my older chair because it keeps getting beat up. That way I don't beat up another $3,000 chair. So that's how I kind of go through those right now. I have been fortunate enough to have been gifted from the American Mobility Project. I was chosen as one of their recipients of the iBot wheelchair. The iBot is a power wheelchair that not only four-wheel drive, go through sand, snow, mud, water, up to a certain depth, and it also can stand me up to the point where I was as being 6 feet tall. It's a very revolutionary chair. The next thing you can do is also go up steps.
Oh, wow.
So if you get a chance, go to Mobius Mobility. It's MOBIUS Mobility, and they have the iBot. That would be IBOT wheelchair. And hopefully by March, I'll have that chair, and that will allow me also to start shooting on the move. Because as of right now, the only time I would shoot from my wheelchair, if we're in a stage and it's calls for movement, I would have to draw, engage the targets, reholster, move, draw, engage targets, and reholster. Takes me a lot more time, but that's the only way I'm going to be able to do it safely.
Mm-hmm.
The iBot, with me in that chair, using the left joystick, I'll be able to shoot targets while moving. Just hopefully I get better at one-handed.
There's always something to practice, right?
Always. So when you say I had the action chair, I bought the action chair probably in 2012 or 13. I'd used that a lot of hunting, a lot of recreational stuff I did. In Pennsylvania, you're either going to deal with snow, rain, mud, or just, lovely outdoors. And the Action Track chair has been wonderful for me. Mine is actually the Action Track Stander, which it will actually stand me up on my own feet and still can move with the tracks. The iBot has the height range, but it doesn't physically stand me up. It just changes my height. Not just. The iBot is crazy in what it can do.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So you mentioned hunting. So those of us that are hunters, we're all going to want to know what kind of hunting, what kind of game are you into, and are you still able to pursue those avenues then as well now?
Yes, with that Action Track chair, I was able to do field trial hunting. So I was hunting birds. We were doing quail, pheasant. And then I was a big grouse hunter before, but grouse has not been as great in Pennsylvania as of late. So I haven't gone grouse hunting, but I've gone bow hunting with the chair. I did take a deer and rifle season from the chair. And what else did we do? I did Hunting for Heroes. It was an organization that is now gone. That was in Missouri. So I was out there. We were doing bird hunts as well out there. So yeah, I've done some hunting. I've done some fishing from the chair as well.
There was, and I know I'm not going to say the name right, but there was an organization when I was in Lincoln a few weeks ago with the Nebraska Deer and Game Expo. I want to say it was Heroes Hunting or Hero Hunts. It was something similar to what you just mentioned.
Sure.
And I'm sure it's the same type of organization where it's getting wounded veterans, and I don't know if it's only military, if it's first responders as well, but getting wounded folks out in the field and just helping people live their lives still. So very, very cool organizations.
Close to me here is a guy that makes me just feel like I've got it so easy because he's got it hard. But Greg has his organization called Accessible Hunter, and he is a quadriplegic that hunts often, and he shoots shotgun and rifle from his chair using a sip and puff.
Okay.
And if you've ever seen that, it's basically him blowing into a straw with the adaptive device that pulls the trigger, but he's the one that has to sight it. He has to align it, and he can use his arms. It's in a mount. Once he gets on target, then he sips or pops, and boom, and it goes. And then he used to have a track chair. I think he has an Action Fab chair now, I think. He gets deer every year, turkey every year, drags them out of the woods, and he's pretty go-to, man. Accessible hunter, and he's good. Greg Trainer.
Very cool. I have to look him
Yeah.
up too. That's awesome. All right. I don't know that there are any other comments or questions out there. Well, Double A has another comment here. You need a controller you can control with your mouth and teeth, which I know they're out there, but it's just probably not something that is going to be that necessary for the kind of hunting that you're going to do. But yeah, that stuff is out there as you were just describing with the sip and puff and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's pretty
amazing.
much. It's pretty much basically up to what your imagination is. And what I've learned in the world of paraplegia and quadriplegia is they'll find their way one way or the other. Most of the people I've found in wheelchairs or with these types of disabilities or amputees is we will find a way, some way, somehow. And that's not just for the shooting sports, that's in anything.
Absolutely.
Whatever their hobbies are, but even so much more so in the shooting sports, you and I know anybody will be willing to help you. When you get somewhere, when you need to shoot, whatever it is, they'll figure it out to help. The biggest thing I would tell for people to start if they're in a wheelchair in any way is go to one of the GSSF shoots, the Glock Shooting Sports Foundation. Everything in those is just a stationary position and you shoot. There's going to be great help there from Glock. They're going to have any number of Glocks to help with. It is a Glock only shoot, but there's the stage it shoots, a 6-plate rack, targets at multiple distances, and a lot of them are timed, and that is a good place to start and gauge you against other people with pretty much the same weapon as well.
I don't know why anybody would want anything else. They are perfection, right?
I agree. I kind of like that.
Honestly, I can't show it because we're live streaming on YouTube, and that's a big no-no on YouTube is to handle a firearm on camera. But it's what's on my hip right now. It's one of my 2 carry pistols is the Glock 19. So I'm sold on it. You know, there's a lot of people that want to, and I'm sure this is news to you. You've never heard before, but there are people out there that like to pick on Glock owners or fans of the Glock pistol. And I don't know if you knew that or not, Jim.
No, I've never heard anything like that, like Tupperware or how do you put your gun in the dishwasher or I says, well, if I do need to clean mine, I do put it in the dishwasher and the next day I fire it. Yours won't. Yeah,
that's just it. I mean, if you got to clean a Glock, which I don't even know who bothers to clean the Glock, it doesn't need it.
Yeah.
No, I kid. I do clean mine, but I don't have to worry about even I can take the thing apart, field strip it, and put it back together. And I mean, if I can figure it out, anybody can. But all kidding aside, you know, I love my Glock. It was the first handgun that I bought. And so as far as grip angle goes, it's what I'm used to. Anything with more of a 1911 style angle doesn't point naturally for me because I did get used to that Glock grip. So I'm good with them, and anybody that wants to make fun of me, go ahead and do it. I don't care. I will I'll put mine up against anybody's anytime. I don't even have modifications on mine. I've added 2 things that are strictly cosmetic. Well, one's cosmetic. I put Talon grips on it. The rubber Talon grips for obviously a little bit better traction on the grip frame there. And then the other thing that I've done is added a mill spin backplate to the back of the slide, which like I said, that's strictly cosmetic. I haven't even taken off the plastic sights and swapped them out for steel sights. I'm still running what it came out of the box with, and it's never let me down. It's a better shooter, more accurate shooter than the guy holding it when I'm the one that's holding it anyway. So no complaints there.
A lot of my stuff that I run, I don't really customize. And when I shoot IDPA, all mine are as Glock sent them to me. My I think I did change the trigger in my 19, but all my other triggers are stock other than the G34 that I carry optics with. And even with that, the internals are all Glock other than that trigger. There might be a spring difference in weight, but other than that, it's Glock.
Mhm.
And I have not really had any breakdown of the firearm. I've had issues with ammunition that caused it not to run, but other than that, that was like I said, purely an ammo issue. And whereas I've gone to I've shot a lot of different individuals, from people that are shooting open with the $3,000 to $5,000 guns. Each weapon is suited for what you're going to do.
Sure.
If you want to enter the shooting sports, I'll tell you, Glock is the best way to go to start and learn. If you, by some sense of the world being, find your way up to an open gun, more power to you. I'll never slight anybody for wanting to get into any shooting sport. Once you're in it with us and we're, kind of just talking around and playing with everybody's on the spot and having a little humor at the cost of what firearm you're shooting. We've done that regardless of whether it's a shooting sport or just a hunting sport. So
Sure.
You're just going to get that same kind of ribbing, in anything else.
No, yeah, and there's a difference between the good-natured ribbing and the people that really are
All of them are biased.
Well, yeah, that too. I was just gonna say anti-Glockers, but because they're out there, and that's okay
Sure.
too. That's why there's so many different options, at least for now. So as long as we don't get HR 127 passed and signed by the president anyway.
Yes.
But yeah, that's a whole different night's topic. We could get easily about 2 weeks worth of discussion, I think, out of HR 127. I guess one other, well, here I've got, where'd that go to? Double A wants to know what part of Pennsylvania you're in, and I can answer that for you. Double A, it's Pittsburgh. Jim said that earlier tonight, but Double A is over in Ohio. He's not too far from you, so.
Okay, yeah, I'm literally where I'm at. I can be Youngstown in an hour, not even.
So you guys are pretty much neighbors.
Oh yeah, it's not far. Depending what part of
I've
Ohio.
never been to that part of the world, and I've got a lot of friends over in that area that I've got a lot of friends that I've never met, Jim. I know a lot of people online, and I know you now, same capacity, sure. But a few people that I have met over in that area too. But one day I'm going to get over that direction. I've never been east of the Mississippi except for on an airplane, and if you count the Atlanta airport, then I've been to Georgia. But I never left the airport. So, and I've never touched the ground, only the concourse. Okay. So I don't know that it counts, but sometime we'll get there. Life has a way of not letting us do the things that we have been planning on doing sometimes. So and
as
that's
of recently
kind of what we're talking about tonight. So so all right. One other thing that I kind of want to get into maybe just a little bit, and for everybody that's out there watching, listening, Jim and I haven't even met until about 10-15 minutes before we went live. I don't know how long Jim's even known that I have a podcast. I've known who you were for a few weeks because I did see you over on the Polite Society podcast here a couple weeks ago. But before that, I didn't know your name either. So the reason I said that is this is completely unscripted. I didn't give Jim a list of talking points or anything to prepare for. This is 100% off the cuff. But I do want to get just kind of a candid response a little bit, if I can put you on the spot here real quick, Jim, because we haven't heard about it now for a while. It hasn't been the main focus of the news headlines, but here recently there have been so many people that have been wanting to defund police departments and cut back on what folks like you were doing to keep us safe. So would you just kind of give kind of a candid response? And we do try to keep things PG here. There sometimes are little ears listening, so maybe not give the response that you would like to give necessarily. I understand, but when you hear people talk about defunding police departments and sheriff's departments. I mean, what do you say to them? Or have you had to?
I've had a lot of discussions with people about it. I have absolutely not against police reform.
Sure.
Police officers and policing is just like any other job. You have to look at it for what it is, and you have to look what's working and what's not. Obviously, we have a lot of non-working issues, but if you think about it, policing hasn't really been around that long, and even less so when it's become actual policing in the United States. So now you flash forward into we're in the age of technology. Technology is finally catching up to us, but we can't keep up with it. So then in that same respect, all this technology is getting better and getting better. We're only getting better by being able to get trained as police officers. Now, police departments in a city, a borough, a township, whatever it may be, a state, is the largest draw of finances from any of those, whether it's the state's finance, the borough, the city, the mayor's office, whatever it is, because we are 24/7.
Mm-hmm.
So your public works guys, they're just during the day, unless it's during the winter, then you never know if it's at night. Your secretaries are all day. Your administrators are all day. We are on shift. There are usually three shifts, or unless you're running 12-hour shifts, and then you have 2 shifts throughout the day. There's always officers out there. Mm-hmm. So of course, what we do is going to draw more money just alone in salary, in vehicle wear, gasoline, anything else. Mm-hmm. So when people say we want to defund the police, okay, you're complaining that police officers are brutal. They just want to shoot people. They want to hit people. They want to punch people. They want to choke people. Well, again, as you said earlier, not all police officers are gun people. So then what are they? They're police officers. Well, each of those police officers has to know how to fight to some degree. Otherwise, why are you in the police field? Because one day you're going to have to fight somebody. Not anyone just wants to go, hey, I'll gladly put those handcuffs on for you. No. As soon as a person usually feels that one cuff hit the one wrist, the shock and awe of that restriction of freedom strikes fear in anyone. So for me to remove that person of their freedom is a big thing. Police officers have to understand that, as well as the civilians have to understand that we know that we're doing something that, let's just say right now, the president of the United States can't just detain somebody like we as a police officer can. Police officers are given a great deal of power, but with that, they have to have the level of responsibility. If you don't train those police officers, you don't train them in de-escalation tactics, you don't train them on how to speak to any person, let alone a person who's in a mental crisis, things are going to escalate very fast. Now, I told you, we are the largest financial draw of the city. Mm-hmm. But now you want to take money away from the institution of policing to place in other areas that may benefit the community, whether it is mental health crises or things of that nature, or you want to push money into community programs. No issue with that. But when you're taking it from a police department that is already burdened with a budget that cannot meet everything that they require, what are you doing? You are tying the hand behind the back of the person who's already got one hand tied behind his back. So now you've removed my ability, and an administrator, being a sergeant or a chief, to have his officers go out there and do a job with less training. Is basically what you're telling them. We're going to take money away from you. You have too much money. There's too many police officers out on the street. Well, what happened with that? Let's see. We've had riots. Those riots then go into the point where cities are losing the economic backbone of what they have, because people can't even open their storefronts during these times of protest. Mm-hmm. Protest is fine. Not armed destructive protests. Those are the differences. So when someone yells out, defund the police, just think about what you're asking and what you are saying. I'm going to come into your house. I'm going to defund you, and I'm going to defund your paycheck. Well, why? Whatever reason I want to attach to that and say you weren't doing it right, I'm going to just take money from you so you can't go learn and do it correctly. It's basically what they're telling you, that we're going to take money from these police departments. Your officers are going to be less trained now because they have less money to work with. Explain it to me. I know how it works, but apparently the simple understanding of what it takes to operate a police department, and not everybody needs to be a police officer to understand what it takes to operate it. Go look at their budgets. Their budgets are public record in an area by going and checking the minutes of a council meeting. And you can see what the yearly budget is for that police department, for overtime, for fuel, for car maintenance, and for training. And you will see that police officers can't even get the training required. And as I said earlier on in the podcast, I went and did a lot of training with firearms and actually even defensive tactics on my own dime, at my own time. Some police officers aren't willing to do that. In my mind, it was going to save my life, and it did. Not only the fact that wearing my vest saved my life, my partners being well-versed saved my life. Excuse me, his ability to be an EMT as well as a police officer saved my life. And the trauma surgeon saved my life. So everything worked in my favor, in the beginning of that being my training. So yeah, I don't, I get very angry at the TV screen a lot when I hear defund the police.
Now, so do I, and I don't have any of the experiences of being a police officer to draw from that you and so many do. But yeah, I mean, it just doesn't seem, if we're going to make cutbacks, that's not what I want. If I've got somebody, you know, if I get ready to go to bed and I look out my window and there's somebody in my lawn who is clearly not in their right mind, and you know, they're yelling at the house, and I want them to leave, and I see that they've got, you know, maybe a lead steel pipe or something in their hand, you know, and I don't know what's going to happen, right? And I call 911. I don't want a social worker to come talk to them. I want somebody to come and physically restrain them until they can get them to a social worker and have that conversation where everybody is safe. And I'm not saying we don't need the social worker to be there and talk to this person. I'm just saying that's not who I want there first.
Sure.
So I just, and none of this makes sense in my mind either.
You know, and a lot of people don't. Oh, go ahead.
I was just coming from an outside standpoint. The social worker isn't necessarily the person you want going in there, and you're not going to get them to go in there. That you're setting someone into a dangerous situation.
Yeah, and how many social workers are trained to de-escalate a potentially violent person like that? I don't know what kind of social worker training they have to go through, but I would think that those de-escalation tactics are much better served by somebody who has the option, if necessary, of restraint as well, a physical restraint on that person as well. So that goes back to that reform that Jim was mentioning earlier. If you want to reform the police department and give them more tools, I'm okay with that. But you don't do that by cutting the budget. You give them the money to give them the tools that are necessary.
Yeah, and so the reason I popped in is so I get really angry when I hear, and I'm not part of law enforcement, but when I hear that defund the police, I have two very good friends who are law enforcement officers here in Nebraska. And this last year has just been a complete nightmare for them. And we haven't had to deal with it as much here as possible. But the stuff that they have to deal with on a day-to-day basis, those people who want to defund the police, honestly, I think most of them should have to go right along with them and see what they deal with.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't know that they would even take the opportunity for that ride along because they know it's a dangerous job. They say, you know, oh, he got shot and killed. Well, he knew what he was getting himself into. Well, yeah, but I didn't think I was going to have to want to do it. I don't want to come out here and get shot at. I did not want to get shot at and get shot 5 times. Not at all. There's a lot of things I wanted to try in law enforcement. That wasn't one of them.
Right.
But I hate to say these people, but people seem to be misinformed about a lot of things anymore. And I don't understand that, considering information is at your hands like it had never been before. Like you said, you really want to see what it is about being a police officer? You think it's so easy, and defund the police. Well, defunding the police also goes to the standpoint of, what are you defunding? Are you telling me you want to take away money that the police officers are getting paid? You realize there are police officers that work starting salary of $25,000 in this nation for doing the same job that someone in another state might get $65,000 for. But that person's still willing to do the job at maybe 25 years of age, getting paid $25,000 a year, where he cannot live off of that. You know, I started off working part-time jobs, and this was back in 1993, working 4 part-time police departments. 4 different uniforms, 4 different locations. I would work 8 hours in one, then go right to another 8-hour shift. Ask another officer to stay over for that hour it took me to drive to the next one. Maybe sleep a couple hours overnight and get back to work at 7 a.m. Being done at midnight at that job. Maybe the third place I had to work the next day, until I had the opportunity to get into a full-time position. Now, let's come up to today. Would have been at my retirement date within a year. I'd be 50 years of age, 25 years of service, I could retire. However, here's the problem. There aren't people that want to fill the spots that are of the retiring police officers. What's going to happen now? Well, you can't get people that want to do this job for the pittance of money that most police departments pay officers, seeing what they've had to deal with for the last 2-3 years.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be a serious nut to crack, because you'll see now. I used to take a test for police departments in the early 90s where it'd be no less than 200 to 300 officers for one position taking the civil service test. I hear now of they're lucky to get 20 for 2 positions.
Wow.
So now you get 20. Let's say hope all 20 pass the test. To then putting together an interview board to interview what's supposed to be the top 5, you may now have to go, well, let's just interview the top 20 because top 5 isn't going to be enough.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had seen somewhere, some senator or someone who wanted to put a bill through that they no longer wanted to allow veterans to then apply for police departments. Like it was a bad thing to have a veteran as a police officer.
I remember hearing about that too, and I don't remember where it was.
Yeah, but yet those are the people who are now willing to come out of the service and do this job.
Mm-hmm.
And you're telling me you don't want them by law to be able to do this job. I don't get it.
You know, and it seems to me like it's just one more way to slowly mold. I don't know if I want to say mold, but streamline the police along with what sounds like they want to do in the military, to where they weed out anybody who doesn't have a like mindset with the people that, you know, are in political power right now. And that's a scary thought to me, whether it's law enforcement, whether it's military. If we're going to start DQing people based on their beliefs, their ideologies. Now, granted, if somebody is openly professed to be a white supremacist, then I don't want them in the military either. However, I would think that a soap and a sock party would take a lot of that out of somebody if they would just allow some of these folks to get hazed a little bit. You know, they'd weed themselves out too. But I guess I can't say that. So everybody pretend that I didn't. But honestly, to say that, you know, if somebody basically is conservative leaning, that you know, they maybe get labeled as an extremist of some sort, or put on a list, and that disqualifies them for military service. I mean, what does that leave for our military? That ends up being stormtroopers. is what we're going to have. We don't want a military or a law enforcement community full of stormtroopers, full of mindless automatons. We want people that can think critically. We want people that can question unlawful orders, but can follow lawful orders, and that can think critically to know the difference.
Sure.
Can make decisions without being told what to do, because as you well know, Jim, there are situations that you think you can prepare for, but until you're thrust into the situation, there is no preparing for this.
Absolutely.
And you want to be able to keep your wits and be able to make the decisions that need to be made to keep yourself or keep somebody else alive. And it seems like we're playing with fire is what it feels like to me, as a nation right now. And I really, really don't want to be one of the people that gets burned by it, but I think it's going to affect all of us at some point. So absolutely. There was a bill that was, and I haven't heard yet how things went today in Lincoln, a Nebraska state bill. And for those of you in Nebraska, it's LB 110. It's going to change how law enforcement in Nebraska can use deadly force or physical force and all this. And I'm not an attorney, and I haven't read all the text of the bill, but there was a group in Lincoln who had put a post up on social media, and if what they say is right, basically what it's going to do is it's going to eliminate the officer's protection from other Supreme Court cases that say that when you're in that moment and you've got a split second to make a decision, you've got a few legal protections that may not hold up under the 2020 vision of hindsight. And this is going to completely strip that of the officers. And it's going to it's going to make everything from subjective on a case-by-case basis, as it should be in this instance, to an objective set of criteria where if you didn't meet them, then you don't have any protections from prosecution, from facing a prison term, great fines, things like that as a law enforcement officer. And I don't know how that would work with the unions that are in place. And I'm not a big fan of unions, but in some cases I can see their benefits. But at the same time, it's a terrible bill from what I can tell of it, that it's only going to, it's going to weed out a lot of the good cops that we have in Nebraska, and those that are close to retirement age are going to say, hey, it's not worth it anymore. I'm not 2 years away from retirement. I'm not going to risk going to jail for 20, because some prosecutor wants to pick apart everything, that they've had just hours and hours and weeks on end to look at this stuff, when I had less than a second to make a decision.
Sure.
And I cannot wrap my head around the responsibility, the weight that you and everyone in the law enforcement community has to carry on a daily basis. It's got to be a heavy burden to bear. And I just want you to know that there are some of us out here who have no idea what we're talking about, but at the same time, we know that it's terrible, and we do support you and your brothers and sisters in blue. So
I appreciate that.
Absolutely. And if you could pass that along, that there are people here in the country still that are 100% behind them. Maybe I don't care about departments as much. I just care about the people that make them up, especially those of you that have been out on the pointy end. So, and the same thing with military service too, obviously. Sure. So, all right. Well, I think we're going to wrap things up a little bit. I will give Pat and Defense Dad one more opportunity to sound off here if you have any other comments or questions.
I was just going to say, the people that keep calling for this defunding and everything else, I wonder if they stop and think through if what they want to have happen, like if the people they think can be in place, how would they like it if that type of person had to show up and defend their houses and everything? Like they're limiting them so much. Like you send a social worker in a situation, and they're going to be the first ones talking to the media and saying how the police didn't do their job. If that social media gets shot, or if that social worker gets shot, they have this idealized idea of what the world should be, and it's not based in reality. So yeah, it just frustrates me. I've had my thin blue line stolen off my front porch twice now, and all sorts of crap. It's just ridiculous. So yeah, I mean, you and your friends in the law enforcement, thank you a lot.
I appreciate that very much.
All right.
Okay, well, I'll throw my 2 cents in here. Again, thank you for your service too, and especially every single cop, sheriff's department, everybody out there protecting the people. I definitely appreciate it. I'll echo a little bit of what Defense Dad said. If people want to get rid of the police departments and everything in there, well, I guess we'll see how quickly the country comes unraveled, and all these new firearms owners and us old hands at guns and stuff. I guess we're gonna know really quick on how things are gonna melt down really quick. So I know you guys are the last line of defense in the United States. So again, thank you for your service, sir. Very much. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Pat.
All right. Before we wrap things up, I do want to mention one more time tonight that tonight's podcast was brought live on YouTube and Facebook because of Nighthawk Medic Shoots' generosity. Nighthawk Medic Shoots is a channel dedicated to protecting the First and Second Amendment through advocacy and shooting. They evaluate firearms for new shooters of all varieties to help ensure every person in our nation has an opportunity to find a weapon they can afford and trust. God bless America and her people. May the Constitution always remain the law of the land. And you can catch Nighthawk Medic Shoots over on YouTube and on Facebook. And if you're watching on YouTube or Facebook right now, you can see the web addresses up there on the screen. And of course, Nighthawk's logo is in the top right corner of the screen all night tonight because of that. So real quick here, we're just going to let everybody have a little bit of time to wrap things up. Any final thoughts? And then, of course, shameless channel plugs and things like that. So Defense Dad, we're just going to start with you again. Where can people find you if they want to hear more of what you have to say?
Well, as of today, I'm actually uploaded to Odyssey, and I'm also on Patreon and on YouTube, obviously. I started doing a little bit of stuff on Instagram, but I haven't played with that too much. But, thanks for having me. If you want to check, I did release a video today that's, well, to be honest with you, kind of pissing some people off. So if you want to check that one out, go check it out. And thanks for having me.
It's always good to stir the pot sometimes. All right. Well, I was going to call on Pat next, but he looks a little preoccupied. Ashley, can you let him be long enough to talk? He's playing with his friends right now.
Yeah, she just kind of had to come and poke the bear a little bit, but that's all right. I love it when she does that.
So when she's not pestering you, where can people find you, Pat?
You can find me on YouTube. Hopefully I have some new content out here pretty quick. Doing a little bit of, hopefully starting a new series with the M&P 15 Sport 2 that I just got a hold of. Going to do some ammunition testing and stuff through it and see how that runs. And I've only put about 60 rounds through it so far, but love it so far. It has been a really good gun so far. So if anybody's looking into a AR platform style rifle, I would definitely go for that one. It has been nothing but reliable, and a lot of the reviews and stuff I've seen on it have been really, really good. So that's the only reason I picked it up. So, and yeah, if you happen to drop by this guy's page, pick up some merch right there, and check out everybody.
Got your text in the mail.
Well, thank you very much, sir. And yeah, definitely go check out everybody's channels that's on here on the panel tonight. And another one, I know I've plugged it every single night, but I'll plug it again. Decoding Firearms by John Petrolino, right here. Good stuff for first-time shooters, first-time gun owners, or just a refresher course for anybody that's hasn't picked up a gun for a while. So just want to thank everybody on the panel tonight. And thank you, Jim, for your service again. I know I've said it 3 times already, but it definitely bears repeating. So thank you all. Appreciate it.
Yep, absolutely. All right. And Defense Dad and Pat, thank you very much for joining us tonight. And always good to have you two along with us as well. Jim Kuzak, where can people find you if they're looking to track you down and learn more about you or see what you've been up to?
All right. First, you can find me at officerjimkuzak.com on my website. That is linked to my YouTube page, Facebook page, and Instagram page. And those are the main locations you can find me. All of this is only possible for me because of Glock. They gave me the opportunity. They're giving me the opportunity as an adaptive shooter so that I can get out there and show that anybody that's in an adaptive position that we can do it. Along with that is a couple of my sponsors. I have Hunter's HD Gold glasses. Those are what you definitely want for shooting. You definitely want them for hunting. Gives you the ability to hunt in any type of light. The lens changes with the light outside. It also gives you the ability to see much better in any scenario that you need to hunt or fish. I also have Katanica clothing gear that they kind of hook me up with a lot of the shorts and pants that I wear throughout the shooting year. And right now I'm shooting Sparks Munitions. They're here out of Pennsylvania, and he gives me all my match grade ammo and gets that going for me. So that's what we're doing. Cool. I appreciate it.
Very awesome. Very, very cool to know that even when it comes to competition shooting, not everybody who's out there on the competition circuit is using both arms and both legs. You see a lot of that when you're watching Shooting USA, some of those shows where, there's a lot of competitions that are shown on TV if you've got the outdoor channel. But what you don't always see is the adaptive shooters, the people that are in wheelchairs or what have you. And it's great to know that even becoming a competition shooter, which you weren't one, correct, until after you were a paraplegic. And so
one more thing, though.
Yeah, go ahead.
With that, I wish I'd mentioned earlier, but I got it out there now. When I mentioned Trevor Backham earlier, he's put together for the adaptive world, it's the Adaptive Defensive Shooting Summit. And that's happened these past 2 years at the Sig Sauer Academy. And this year, it's going to be September 10th and 11th at the Sig Sauer Academy. Anybody who's in a wheelchair, missing a limb, or anything like that, civilian, law enforcement, or military, look up Adaptive Defensive Shooting Summit. There will be a registration page. We'd love to get more people out there. We're having 1 day of training and 1 day of competition. We'd love to see everybody there.
The Academy is in Epping, New Hampshire. Is that right?
Epping, New Hampshire. Yes.
Which is Epping with a P's, not effing New Hampshire. We're not swearing on the show here.
Correct. Absolutely.
went to effing New Hampshire to no, that's very cool. And it's a adaptive defensive shooting summit.
Yes.
Which is different than adaptive shooting summit, because that's a cool monogram to just stick on clothes and hats.
Yes, absolutely. That's, I think, probably why the D's in there.
Why the D is in there. ADSS. Got it. Okay. Good to know. Cool joke, but hopefully that'll help you remember it down the road too. Very, very cool. All right. Well, we will go to the list here real quick and say hello to everybody that said hello to us. So over on the Facebook side, a little bit of a quieter night. We had Ron Johnson. We had Deb Treese out there. On the YouTube side, we had Frankie's Guns and Glitter, Blitz, Defense Dad, Mike, Pat Hirsch, Schofield 63, Ben Roberts, Vanessa Kitty, MKJO, Ryan Pettit. I don't think I've seen Ryan, so welcome, Ryan. Clint Taurus, still the best name, still can't say it quickly. The Poor Conservative, Middle American Outdoors, G23, Armament and Axes, Gun Loving Grandpa, Seven Wonders, Patriot in the Dark, Tim Foley, John Crump, Crumpy, I didn't even see you out there. Howdy. Mark Mankey, Two Live Moo, and Hawaii Volcano Squad. And HVS was looking for some good news. I've got some. Before we go, I want to do a shameless plug for my other side hustle. I had a lot of people recently when I finally got this put up on Facebook that thought that I quit my job, but I didn't quit the day job because it's still the only one that consistently pays money all year long. But I am now on the board of directors of the Nebraska Firearms Owners Association, which is our state level grassroots lobby organization. And I am the new director of media there. We are planning an online town hall meeting. We're going to do that on Facebook, just because I don't have a pro version of StreamYard available for the NFOA account. So we're going to use the free version of StreamYard. We can only stream to one place. It's going to be on Facebook because that's where we have the most reach. So if you have not yet liked the Nebraska Firearms Owners Association page on Facebook, then you need to do that so you can find that video. I don't have the exact time, but it's looking like it's going to be Sunday evening this coming weekend. So that's going to make it I believe the 7th of February is when that should happen. We're going to have a couple of the board members in the panel along with myself. And then hopefully most of the board members are available out in the comment section as well. So I'm hoping that we can get all 7 of us there in some capacity. But we're going to go through the list of bills that have been introduced in the Nebraska unicameral this year that pertain to the gun owners. Some of them are really good. Some of them are really bad. The 2 that probably will get the most focus, there is a bill that extends and redefines our castle doctrine, because we don't really have one as such here in Nebraska. So it's going to clarify some things. It's going to extend to a vehicle as well. I wish it would eliminate the duty to retreat, but it won't. But at least we'll add the car to the places where you don't have that. So that's going to be talked about. And then the other big one that everybody's talking about, and if you've found my Facebook page, Sandhills Shooter, then you've seen this post. It's gone by, well, before we went live, I looked and we were at 89,000. So the way it's moving, it's probably reached 90,000 people by now. People that are just sharing it all over. But LB 188 here in Nebraska would make us a Second Amendment sanctuary state. That doesn't mean federal laws don't apply here. Just like marijuana is still illegal in Colorado, South Dakota, those states, and a federal agent could still enforce federal laws in the state of Nebraska. But it's a start. It would prohibit any state, anybody that works for the state of Nebraska or any political subdivision thereof from being forced into enforcing a federal law that isn't already part of our state constitution. So there are some things that still, I mean, it's not a free pass in Nebraska, but if we get unconstitutional magazine capacity limits or firearm bans, ammunition bans, or firearm accessory bans, things like that, then the federal agents would have to come do their own work. They couldn't force anybody that is state or local here in Nebraska to do such a thing and help them enforce that or prosecute it. So that's really cool. So keep your eyes open on the Facebook page. I'll share it on mine as well once I have everything nailed down. But we're hoping Sunday evening, probably around 7 or 8 o'clock Central Time is when we'll do that online town hall. People can chime in live. That's why we want to do it this way. So anybody that has questions, right? Anybody that has questions can ask them in real time. One of our board members is an attorney. So from a legal aspect, we will have him here to answer any legal questions. We'll have the NFOA president with us on the panel, and I don't know who else we're going to have on screen with us. We'll kind of see how that goes, but excuse me. Yeah, we're going to talk about all that stuff. So be on the lookout for that, and I will keep everybody updated as we go along. But that's going to happen before we meet next Tuesday night. It's going to happen this Sunday. So which is that Super Bowl Sunday? I don't know. So anyway, we'll see what happens there. But anyway, that's coming, and HVS, that's about the best news I can give you. So we'll see what happens there. But Yeah, we're going to talk about how everybody watching and listening is the gun lobby here in Nebraska. It's not just one group. It's not just one person. It's all of us. And this doesn't work unless we all help out. We all do our jobs. And that applies federally too, guys. I mean, HR 127 is kind of a doomsday bill. And sometimes I wonder if it's a red herring, if they make us focus on that and then some other little bills get slipped through the cracks that we didn't notice. I mean, we need to be vigilant, but again, we'll get into some of that stuff down the road. So, all right. I think that is everything I wanted to say. So we're going to wrap this up. Thank you all for joining us. Without all of you, there's just no need for us to do this. So we couldn't do this without you. So on behalf of Defense Dad and Pat and sometimes Lily and Ashley's arm, on behalf of Jim Kuzak and Sandhills Sweetheart and myself, thank you very much, all of you, for joining us, whether you caught us live or you're catching us on the replay or you're catching us on the audio side, which is always at least a week late. Then we appreciate it. Share the heck out of this. There may be somebody that that maybe could benefit from some of the info that we've talked about tonight. And if you don't know that person, but if you share it, maybe your friends do. So please hit that share button. We really appreciate it. Hit the thumbs up or the like button on Facebook. If you haven't followed my page, please do so on Facebook. If you're on Facebook and you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel, please do that as well. And make sure you're following the Sandhills Sweetheart page as well, because there are some posts going up and you can keep track of our ongoing journey through this leukemia stuff that we're doing. We are sporting, or not, what did I say, leukemia? Lymphoma. I'm sorry. It's been one of those nights. We do have the lime green ribbon, and that's why all the names are lime green on our channel too, because we're back dealing with that, and they've told us that this is something that they can cure, but it's still going to be a little bit of a journey. So from the Sandhills Sweetheart page, then you can find links to some other pages and keep up on the updates and stuff like that. So makes it easier than me trying to remember to relay everything here, because that sometimes would take most of the night. So check us over there as well. So thanks everybody. We love you. God bless you. But it's that